radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio. For the masses. Yeah. Today's Wednesday, October 20th, 2021. $292 days into the new year. Only 73 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of nowhere. A total undisclosed location. That's right. But it is beautiful. Let's see if the lights start flashing tonight. That's pretty cool. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south. Far and near. Olivia. That's pretty cool. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and UnX. The UnX Network kicking off October 31st. Get ready for that. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Ray Hobbs. What is cracking? How you doing? All right. Great day. Productive day. Things getting done. Things getting done. Tonight, very special guest, Jacques Vallée. Jacques Vallée is here. We're going to be talking, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff tonight. We're going to be talking about his book that he co-authored with Paola Harris. It's called Trinity. And we when the book launched, we had Jacques and Paola on the show discussing it. We're gonna do that tonight, but it may not be what you think. Well, but it is, and it is. I mean, there are things around Trinity, and that I find fascinating, and there were things that were retrieved, and we're going to talk about that too as well, and the research going into that. So just be prepared, just get ready. Jacques Vallée is with us, the one and only, and am I going to say what I'm about to say? I hope he's listening right now. So I'm literally on the phone with Jacques about an hour ago and talking about this and that. And he said something to me that was like he had telepathy, right? And I was thinking, and he says it. And I go, "Hey, Jacques." "Yes, Jimmy." "Are you an alien?" And he starts laughing. He goes, "I am. I'm a legal alien." I said, "Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to buy that. He just laughed. But it was, I asked Jacques Vallée if he was an alien. I mean, he hit me with some telepathy, man. It was pretty whack. And he knows it too. My reaction was like, "What?" It's pretty funny. Oh, man. Let's see if maybe I'll mention it when he joins us tonight. Tomorrow night, right here, Linda Moulton Howe. Yesterday, Robert Salas did a press conference at the National Press Club about nuclear weapons and UFOs, and we are going to discuss all of that tomorrow night with Linda Moulton Howe. Now, I did talk to Robert a couple of weeks ago about coming on the show and discussing this, and he wanted to hold off until after the press conference and then do a full-on show. And so we should be doing that in the next week or two with Bob Salas. So stand by for that. But Linda will be here tomorrow night. Now, she's been doing a lot of research into this for many, many years, and now this press conference has happened. So we will discuss all of this tomorrow night with Linda Moulton Howe and everything else under the sun that she works on. One of the great reasons that Linda is on this show is we just take off, man. We just go into a direction and see where that conversation lands, and we'll be doing that, of course, again tomorrow night. Now, myself and Jacques Vallée will both be at the Starworks USA UFOs All the Above and Beyond conference, and it's happening next month. It's going down in 3 weeks, November 12th through the 14th in Laughlin, Nevada at the Aquarius Hotel and Casino. And, of course, Jacques is going to be there. Paul Hynek is going to be there. Oh, you know what? Last night during the show, it was actually right before the show, and I didn't get it until after. But anyway, Paul Hynek shoots me an image of Paul. I apologize. I'm not giving anything away. All right? I'm not doing that. But I'm just going to say this. He sends me a picture of a whiteboard, technically a green board, a whiteboard, I think it's green lighting, in his office with all of the chapters and subchapters and topics of his new book. And wow, right? And you know what I did? You know, I got the blowing it up, and I was like, oh man. And I replied back and said, hey, can I come by and see that in person? I got to see that in person. That is impressive. Impressive. Anybody that writes a book, I mean, that's obviously how it goes down, right? You've got to lay it out. I'm just so impressed with people that have the ability to write a book. And with me, I don't know if I would do it. I would just start with page one. I thought that, that's how it's done, right? You just type. Obviously not. So anyway, Paul Hynek's going to be there November 12th through the 14th. Grant Cameron is phoning in from Canada because of COVID. Colin Andrews, Jaime Maussan, and 10 other amazing speakers. Now, tickets and info, everything is available over at StarWorksUSA.com, your hotel accommodations. Everything is so reasonably priced. The Aquarius is a great hotel. It's big, too. It's really nice. 2 towers. And but reasonably priced. So go and check it out. Get your rooms booked. Get going. And come and hang out with us November 12th through the 14th right there in Laughlin, Nevada. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Very simple. And oh man, that's funny. I'm sorry. I got distracted with Twitter. Hashtag F2B on Twitter is the sandbox. You can see what's distracting me right now. And let's see. What is this? I don't understand. There's somebody named The Gray. I don't get the tweet. I don't get it. Normally I understand. I see what's going on. I don't understand that one, The Gray. Okay, breaking news. Facebook. Okay, all right. You sitting down? Facebook is getting ready to rebrand itself and they're starting with a new name. Their new name will be based on the metaverse, not social media. The metaverse is combining virtual and augmented reality technologies into a new online realm. Facebook will announce the new name next week, and then they are planning to hire 10,000 people in Europe to work on creating their new metaverse. So there you go. Facebook next week is going to have a new name. They don't know. You have to remember, you have Instagram, you have WhatsApp, you have Facebook, and Facebook is the owner of that, but Facebook is a platform. So Facebook's going to get renamed, and there just may be a new company above it. Yeah, all of this is going down next week. And I've heard rumors about the new name. You know what? I'm going to do that tomorrow night on the show. You know what? I'm going to announce the new name tomorrow night on the show, and we'll see if my sources are correct. Big news today, Scott Wolter. The Vikings used their longships to cross the Atlantic Ocean and settled in Canada as early as 1021, a very specific date. And all of this is according to a new study provided the first exact date of Europeans in the Americas. The study examined wooden artifacts from a previously undated Viking settlement in Newfoundland, which provide the earliest known record of humans crossing the Atlantic to reach the Americas. The site, known as Les Meadows, is located in Newfoundland's northern peninsula. Researchers landed on the very specific and definitive date from chopped wood in a solar storm. And that solar storm happened in 993 AD. Now listen, you're wondering how they pulled this off. The signal from the solar storm was 29 growth rings in from the bark, which says that the cutting down of the trees, which were done with metal objects, which any indigenous culture here in the United States didn't have any metallurgy back then. But so 29 years in from the bark, the solar storm was in 993 AD. That research is solid, right? You can measure that just about anywhere. So that says that the cutting took place in the year 1021 AD. The Vikings were here 500 years before Columbus. Scott Wolter's been saying this for a very long time. Pretty interesting. All right. Well, it's Jurassic Park, but for real. Scientists have found the oldest aquatic animal preserved in amber. Wait a minute. Aquatic? Amber, right? And it's the most complete crab fossil ever discovered. The 100 million year old creature resembles crabs that we see today running around on the beach. Yep, absolutely. Computerized scans revealed delicate body parts like antennae, gills, and fine hairs on the mouth parts. The creature was only 5 millimeters long and likely a baby crab. A cute little baby crab. The Chinese, U.S., and Canadian scientists working on the amber specimen, which originated from northern Myanmar, named the tiny crab Cretopsora athenata. Athenata. Where do they get these names? Obviously Cretaceous, right? So you kind of can get Athena. I don't know. Is that antenna? I don't know, but that's the new name. Myanmar. So, Jurassic Park, you can go and shop for amber and fossils and things. Lots of insects, lots of mosquitoes, lots of bees, lots of things in amber. You can buy it all over the place. But I found out today that all of that comes from, thank you, Kaz. Kaz is quick, man. Kaz is fast. Look at that. Is that nuts or what? But all of the amber mining that happens, including where this amber specimen came from, comes from Myanmar. I did not know that. I thought, amber was kind of like everywhere, but apparently not. Well, it happened earlier today. Mount Aso, the largest volcano in Japan, erupted earlier today. You can check out the videos online. It's absolutely incredible. The smoke rose as high and is rising as high as 11,480 feet above the crater, with lava and rock pouring out along the western slope of the mountain. There has been a lot of activity throughout Japan, lots of volcanoes there, of course. And as of now, no injuries have been reported. Considering the size of this eruption, and nobody injured, and no structures have been threatened yet. But there you go. Mount Aso earlier today. Let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today, John Krasinski. Yeah, he's 42. Jack Ryan, The Office. I don't know. Has he done anything else besides Jack Ryan in The Office? And I never watched The Office, so I didn't know John from that. Jack Ryan's pretty good. Season 1 and Season 2 are pretty good. But that's all I knew him from. And he's married to, I can't even remember her name. Viggo Mortensen today is 63. Played Strider, Aragorn in The Lord of the Rings. Cinderella's stickman drummer, Fred Curry, today is 55 years old. And also, Snoop Dogg is 50. Are you buying that? Dude looks 75. Our dead guy's birthday today is Tom Petty, 1950 to 2017. Died at the age of 66. Tom, of course, was the lead singer and guitarist of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, which formed all the way back in 1976. He was also a member of the supergroup The Traveling Wilburys. His hits include, and this isn't all of them, this is just like off the top of my head, Don't Do Me Like That, Refugee, The Waiting, Don't Come Around Here No More, love that song, Learning to Fly, I Won't Back Down, Free Fallin', You Don't Know How It Feels. He sold more than 80 million records worldwide. What about Breakdown? How did I forget? I didn't have Breakdown on the list. How does that happen? 80 million records worldwide, making him one of the best-selling music artists of all time. Petty and the Heartbreakers were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back in 2002. And as we all know, he died of an accidental drug overdose on October 2nd, 2017, 1 week after the end of the Heartbreakers' 40th anniversary tour. Happy birthday, Tom Petty. On this day in history, OTD, 1977, Leonard Skinner's tour plane crashes, killing Ronnie Van Zant, Steve Gaines, and Cassie Gaines, as well as the band's assistant road manager, the plane's pilot and co-pilot. 20 other passengers survived the crash. Fader fact. All right. Toilet paper. How do you hang it? When you put the toilet paper on the roll, if you actually do it, right, the wall hanger thing, and you put it in, do you put it outside or do you put it inside facing the wall? Which one? How does it drape down for you? Well, toilet paper orientation was the most controversial issue in the 31-year history of Ask Ann Landers, the advice column, with over 15,000 letters submitted on the topic, front or back. This is a fact, by the way. So how do you do it? How do you do it? Have you thought about it? I go outside. It drapes on the outside, not on the wall side. No, it doesn't drape against the wall. I go whoop, the opposite, and it drapes on the outside. So there you go. Let Twitter decide this. I'm not making this up. I mean, could you imagine if that was a Fade or Fact about Fade to Black? Right? The most controversial subject on Fader Night in the 31-year history of Fade to Black was toilet paper orientation. It would probably be breakfast cereals, but it could be toilet paper. Tonight, very special guest Jacques Vallée is here. I need to hit this River Moon coffee. Jacques is on with us in 8 minutes. That's a good batch right there. That's a good batch. Yeah, see? Already. The Twitter controversy. Toilet paper. Tomorrow night, Linda Moulton Howe is back. There is no Fader Night this week. I may be taking some calls later on tonight, so just stand by for that. River Moon Coffee, rivermoonwellness.com. Man, I love coffee. Especially that coffee. I just got, so do you guys have Trader Joe's? Man, I got other stuff I want to talk about. But Trader Joe's, man. So I got some organic creamer, heavy cream, sweet cream creamer. Oh, really good. But you know what else I got? These. That's right. Is that in focus? Are you jealous? You know, this box is heavy. It's got to weigh, it's 1 pound. 1 pound. And also, it's milk and dark chocolate toffee chips. It's going to be good. I got the book, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. Finally arrived. Haven't read it yet. So that's sitting there, too, as well, in the hot seat. Now, 2 days ago, no, was it yesterday? What's today? Today's Wednesday. Yesterday, I was on Christina Gomez's show, History with the Mystery. History with the Mysteries. Or maybe it's both. And we're doing crash retrievals. And one of the things, so, you know, I get done with the show, and I know that Jacques is coming on tonight. We've got Linda coming on tomorrow. And I started thinking about this. Why don't we not hear any more reports about crash retrievals? It's like they stopped. You know, we heard rumors about something in Brazil 2 years ago, Mage, and I talked to Linda about that. And that story heated up. There was lots of things that happened, some evidence, some letters, some emails, some things, but it just died on the vine. There were reports that the United States sent down a SEAL team or whatever, special forces, and they did this retrieval. Didn't hear anything more about it. Story just disappeared. And the last real report that I remember, of a crash retrieval was in 2008 in Needles, California. And we talked about that yesterday on the show. And I thought to myself, that can't be it, right? It's been over 13 years since anything stateside. And if we go back, and we were doing this with Christina yesterday, you know, Kecksburg, right, Needles, California, and there were a lot of reports about things over the years, and you can go and you can find these, but since Needles, California, what's the difference? What is going on, or are they happening but we just don't know about them. We've got Eric Davis and his statements, the new budget that has got a very direct reference to crash retrievals in there and that they need to be reported. But why don't we hear reports about this anymore? Why don't we? We have Jacques Vallée on the show tonight, and his book that he wrote with Paola Harris, Trinity, is about a crash retrieval in New Mexico at the Trinity test site. That's why it's called Trinity. And that happened, right? And reports, Cape Girardeau, of course, Roswell, just all over, but not lately. And I just don't get it. But I think that there is something else going on. And not that there aren't physical craft here crashing, landing, not taking off, but definitely when I say retrieval, that are being scooped up by our government, that's occurring. It has to. Why put it in the budget if it's not happening? There are reports of it. We had Rick Doty talking about his retrieval at a ranch back in 2008 too as well, and that happened on Monday. So we know that they are going on. Why don't we hear about them? Right? Why aren't there civilian reports of this? Why aren't there sightings of it occurring? I find that all very interesting and very compelling. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jacques Vallée is with us. I am going to take a quick break, and I will return with Jacques Vallée on the Game Changer Network and KJCR. That's right, soon to be the UnX Network. October 31st, it's going down. Race Hobbs, going down. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. I'll be right back with Jacques Vallée right after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on jimmychurchradio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2B Blend for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. GetTheT.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. GetTheT.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years, and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's GetTheT.com. GetTheT.com. The tea that makes you go.
Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Manson. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jacques Vallée. Tomorrow night, Linda Moulton Howe. She is back. We'll be talking about nuclear weapons and UFOs. All of that going down tomorrow night. But right now, it's about Jacques. And he's joining us tonight to talk about his book, co-author with Paola Harris. It's called Trinity. We're going to be doing that, and we'll also talk about a little bit about materials that are being tested that were retrieved from the Trinity crash site. Dr. Vallée was a senior researcher at the DARPA-funded Augmentation Research Center at SRI at the very beginning of the RV program initiated by Dr. Puthoff and Russell Targ back in 1971. His experience spans the entire life of the program and gives him a special position as an observer and commentator on the reality of remote viewing. He also has a long interest in the UFO phenomenon, has been earning a very, very vaulted reputation of being one of the most rigorous and credible researchers in the field. He was the model, of course, for that French scientist figure guy, Francois Truffaut, in Steven Spielberg's classic film, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only Jacques Vallée. Jacques, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Good evening, Jimmy.
And it's always, you know what's funny, Jacques, when you and I talk on the phone and you go, hello, Jimmy, and you say it with that voice, I'm just like a little kid, man. I'm just like,
I can't change my voice, you know. I mean, and I can't change my accent. So even though I spent 1 year in Texas, but I guess it wasn't long enough.
No, it certainly was not. And I'm 58 years old, man, and I feel like a kid. It's great, man. I get all giddy. And it all started for me, Jacques, before we get started here. When I saw a videotape of you being interviewed, I'm trying to think of his name. It was like 1985 up in San Francisco, and you did it for the college TV station up there. Jeffrey Mishlove. Jeffrey Mishlove.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember that interview?
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny because I've changed a little bit especially the color of my hair. But that was, and of course he's still doing great with those interviews of people exploring new directions and new theories, both in science and in philosophies. Doing great.
Now, I'm actually going to, in a strange way, I'm going to circle back to Mishlove in a little bit, and there's a reason why I want to do that. You said some things in that show. Well, you know what? Okay. We're going to circle back to that. What I want to talk about first is you and I are going to be at Paula's conference at the Starworks USA conference in Laughlin in just 3 short weeks. What is your presentation going to be on this year?
So I think there are 2 presentations that I'm scheduled to make. One will be on, what is changing today in research about UFOs. I mean, what has changed with the new position of the government? I mean, the subject is no longer being ridiculed. In fact, it's being taken very, very seriously by elements of the military and increasingly by scientists. So I want to talk about that. A lot of things are changing, and I think the audience wants to get up to date on all of that. Not all of it is visible, in newspapers and on TV and so on. A lot of things are changing in the background, and we should be aware of that. It's not all positive because at the same time, things are also becoming more classified. So the question that we're going to face is at what point is the information going to be open? And of course, people talk about disclosure, and that term has never been defined. But there is a movement, certainly now, for more openness and scientists getting involved. Then the second thing we're going to do is a panel with Paola, of course, who initiated that investigation into Trinity. And Trinity is going to change everything about how you study materials, how you study crashes, and I hope we'll have a little time to talk about the book. The book is doing very well. It's now of course, in English. It's been in English for over 4 months, but it's now in French, Italian, and Spanish, and we're working on the Portuguese and German editions. So it's attracting a lot of attention. In this country, everybody wants to talk about the limits, which is fine. Of course, these are, this is a turning point that one of the Navy's aircraft carriers had the opportunity to track actual UFOs and publish the data, or at least most of the data and the videos that everybody has seen by now. But in the rest of the world, yes, people are aware of that and they think it's great, but they are more aware probably of the history of the phenomenon. Everything that's happening in Washington now has to do with data from the last 5 years or so, mostly from the U.S. Navy. And it's fascinating because it's technical data, but, UFOs were there before. They were since at least 1945 in this country, and we know it was, the subject was alive before, and in Europe and in Asia and elsewhere, it's been alive for centuries. So, you have different reactions in different parts of the world.
The materials that were recovered that you have now from the Trinity site, are those being tested?
Yes. Now there are 2 kinds of materials. There is actually a device that was extracted, that was retrieved from inside the craft when it was ready to be shipped out to a secret location, and the object was on the trailer of a army truck, and one of the witnesses sneaked inside. He wanted a proof that this was real, that the experience he had lived through was real, and he wanted to get something, and he got that bracket that we have, which poses a lot of questions, and we're testing it in the lab. There are stories about other materials, 3 different types of other materials that people have seen in connection with that case in August 1945. Now, August 1945 happens to be the capitulation of Japan, after the 2 atom bombs that had been developed within 20 miles of the place where Trinity happened, where the sighting of that craft happened. So we have a lot of information about it. However, I've been looking at retrieved samples for a long time. I've worked with Professor Sturrock, who is a professor of physics at Stanford, who has done analyses of recovered materials before, and I worked with him. So there is a long history of, as you know, of things being recovered at the site. Until recently, there was much we could do with it other than just, chemical analysis, but we couldn't go much beyond that. And now what's changed is that now we have much better instruments to get these things to talk, force them to talk about their composition and how, whether they are common materials or metamaterials or strange materials in other ways. So that's what we're doing, and of course it's really exciting. We're not going to keep that secret. We're going to publish it, where one of our papers, which is really the first paper on the subject, accepted in a scientific publication, and that took 2 years. But now it's accepted, so we'll be able to talk about it. It's still a little bit premature, but people will see the paper. It's mostly about methodology, because these are not. You have to assume that these are not completely common materials. So there are things you have to look at, and you have to look at it in a particular way. So that will be published. Again, in the next few months.
Now,
so we can talk about all of that.
Well, the part itself, and you've published pictures of it. It's complete, as opposed to the other materials that you have in your possession are fragments or pieces of. But this is a complete object. What is the testing leaning towards right now as far as the type of metal that it is made out of? Is it anything we can relate to that we have here on Earth, or is this something else?
Yes, it's an alloy of aluminum. It's a known alloy, so it's not strange in that sense. What is strange is what was it doing there? And there are 2, I have a little argument with my colleagues, and I can tell you what the argument is about. The witness was Mr. Jose Padilla. He was a child at the time, but he was a very bright child, and this was on a property of his family. And so he was very familiar with the property and everything else. He was on his territory. He went inside, pretty gutsy, and wrenched it out of the wall of the UFO. I mean, of this device. My first idea is that probably the army had been there for over a week, cleaning everything, cleaning all the pieces that were around on the landscape, saving that, taking it away, probably to White Sands. And the device could have been there just to wrap an electrical cable, electrical cord, so that they could work at night and with tools and with a light. This was in the middle of nowhere. I mean, this was it crashed. Actually, it did a controlled crash landing. So the object was not broken up. It kept its integrity. It was not a flying saucer. It was an avocado. The witnesses called it an avocado. It was a large oval the size of two trucks. If you took two Ford 150s and you put them one on top of the other, that would be approximately the volume and the weight, by the way, of that thing. The Army said it was a weather balloon, of course. So it was a very strange weather balloon that probably weighed about 5 tons. It was so we have a good description of the inside. My first theory is this is probably a human device, that the Army picked up. They improvised a system to bring electricity inside, and this would have been a good way to wrap a cable, around that thing. It was turning. It was attached to a framework with a pin, so it could turn around, and you could have wrapped an electrical line around that. Of course, there was no electricity on that ranch, but I used to drive a Jeep. A Jeep can generate electricity. Of course, that's what the U.S. Army was using in World War II to bring electricity, everywhere on the battlefield. And so they had the way to bring electrical tools or lights, so they could work around the clock on the inside of that UFO.
The other part about this is your samples that I've seen pictures of, and you have lots of them. But do you have anything when we're talking about these materials that is also as complete as this part from Trinity, or is everything
we
debris?
Do not. And actually, we don't need that. For example, if the case we're going to publish, what we have is material, actually metal, that was ejected from an object that has never been identified. We have several sightings of that object, and we have independent witnesses. It's obviously we started with the best documented case we had. But all we need is to be able to test a part of that metal. And now, what has changed also is that we have very, very good instruments to do not just the chemical analysis, but to look at the isotopes. You could always fake, a chemical analysis. You can of course melt metals and combine them and claim that you found some strange alloy, but you cannot fake the isotopes. So with the isotopes, we can go to the detail and authenticate actually what kind of material it was. There have been papers published, for example, by Professor Sturrock of Stanford, about tests of materials from Argentina and Brazil that were thought to be very strange, but there was very, very little material. So on the trip to Argentina, actually, I recovered enough material from that particular case, a case in Ubatuba in Brazil, to be able to do all the tests we want to do. So the reason it's in Argentina is that it was saved in a museum, in a UFO museum in Argentina, where two different witnesses brought, one witness and one investigator who was not a witness but came in later and recovered material, donated it to that museum. So now we have enough. The first tests had been done on the basis of very small samples that had been saved by APRO, APRO, one of the early UFO groups of Jim and Carol Lorenzen in Arizona. And they had allowed Stanford to borrow a little bit of that material, but there really wasn't a lot of it. So we're redoing the tests.
Now, this is where I want to talk about Jeffrey Mishlove for a second. The reports of crashes and retrievals and landings were frequent, and some of the, early on, 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, the last, besides what just happened in Mage, Brazil, but the last thing in the United States that has been documented and witnessed was that I know of was Needles, California in 2008. And it seems that either the government is really good at covering up and retrieving these objects before anybody knows about it, or they're just not landing as frequently as they were before, which brings me back to you, Jacques. You have been talking about another aspect of what these objects are, going back to the 1970s, that the UFO phenomenon, or ET contact, may not be as physical as we would hope it would be, right? we want it all to be physical craft, right? Nuts and bolts and things. And is that the case, that you've been right for 50 years, but now today people are talking about the interdimensional aspect of this, and it is the subject that is being discussed today, but it seems like it's almost 50 years too late. You've been talking about this for a long time. Do you think that that's why the crashes in modern times are less frequent?
I'm not sure they are less frequent. There is a pattern of waves that we've traced over at least 50 years, and more likely, more like 80 years, and that there are periods when the phenomenon is very quiet, and then there are periods where it's very intense. If some of those intense waves happen in the middle of Africa, we're not going to hear about it for a while. We may hear of a few cases that are close to a town or are reported in the press. But so I'm not sure about the exact pattern. The landings, of course, with traces, and especially those where we can recover materials, are rare. They call for witnesses who are going to preserve the data. There are many cases where I'm very frustrated, and so are my friends, because we had it in the family. We kept it in a coffee can, and then when we moved, we don't know what we did with it. And so it's we have to be very lucky to find a family or a witness who has preserved that data going back. But that's that we're getting to draw up a pretty good pattern of how much in fact, has been retrieved or has been witnessed. Now, for a long time, people have attacked me, fairly, or at least critiqued me, saying, why don't you spend time on those crashes and so on? Look at Roswell. I've never gone to Roswell. I trust the people who've gone there. Certainly, Stanton Friedman has published several good books about Roswell, and I knew Stanton and trusted his scientific method, his scientific sense. The problem is, as several scientists have told me, you haven't given me anything I can take to my lab. And so I'm willing to believe you. I'm willing to consider the story. I'm not against the idea that those things came from the sky or from another dimension. That's fine. That's exciting. But, I'm a scientist, and I'm not going to be very useful if you don't give me something I can test. And now we have a number of things that we've accumulated over the last 40 years. Ubatuba was way back, and we have a pattern of these materials. In many cases, they are materials that we recognize that are ordinary elements. And people say that, it has to be very, complex metamaterials, and if it comes from an advanced propulsion system. Well, the most advanced cars we have now are the Toyota hydrogen cars. And there was a demonstration in Japan by the president of Toyota with, one of these cars running on the stage, and he was explaining, that this was the first, publicly available hydrogen car you could buy, and he made that pitch, and the car was running all the time with a glass under the tailpipe. And after his presentation, he went and picked up the glass, which was then filled with water, and drank it. So, the exhaust from that car, hydrogen car, works by combining oxygen with hydrogen, creating a reaction, which is actually very, very efficient, and, running the car. And the result is water, pure water, distilled water. It's not even distilled water, it's just pure chemical water. And sure, you can drink it. I think that's we have to remember that, because it's not obvious that for a very advanced propulsion system in space or across dimensions, that we need very, very, very esoteric materials. Now, at Trinity, and for people who want to get the book, the full title is Trinity, the Best Kept Secret. Well, it is a best kept secret because the U.S. Army never spoke about it anywhere, and the witnesses never spoke about it until Paola found them. And Paola found them through an interview that one of them gave in a Socorro local paper, and but that was, for over 50 years, they never spoke. They never spoke because you have to go back to the days of the atom bomb. Those were the days when if you saw something unusual, you would keep your mouth shut, because it could be something secret, it could be something that, the enemy was looking for. So there were very stern warnings, of, loose lips sink ships. Okay, that was, you remember that poster?
I do, yeah.
You're not supposed to talk about what you see. If it's strange, it could be related to the war. So they never spoke. Also, they never spoke because, after all, they had, admittedly taken something from inside an object that the Army was very interested in. They watched the recovery for a week. Okay, so they were there. This is not like Roswell, where nobody knew exactly, and still today people argue there may have been 2 crashes, 2 sites, and they argue about where the primary site may be and so on. And things were allegedly seen and recovered later, but nobody was there when the thing crashed. In Trinity, they were there. It crashed on their land. They were there because they had to fix the fences for the family. They had to take care of the cattle. They had binoculars to read the brand on the cows. I mean, again, this was a very large cattle ranch. And, of course, I mean, why were they kids there? Well, because their grown-ups were at war. They had not come back from the Pacific. The case happened 2 days after the capitulation of Japan. The war in Europe had halted, but the army was, of course, spread out over part of Africa and most of Europe. So these kids were very clever. They saw this; it was fascinating, and they kept their mouths shut. Now, why isn't it in the Blue Book Files? Well, Blue Book didn't exist in 1945. In fact, the U.S. Air Force didn't exist during World War II. I mean, there were airplanes and pilots, but they were attached to the Army Air Force. Mm-hmm. President Truman signed the creation of the U.S. Air Force in 1947. There were no flying saucers in 1945. Well, for one thing, that object was not a disk. It was, an oval, egg-shaped, avocado-shaped object. It was not a disk. It was not a flying saucer. The term flying saucer was invented by Kenneth Arnold, very appropriately, in 1947, 2 years later. So we have to go back to that time. And, Paola, of course, is Italian, has sharp memories of Italy in the post-war period, as I do in France. I witnessed the end of World War II. I saw aerial battles over the town where I was born. I was born in 1939. And by the time of the end of the war, I knew what was going on. And I also knew that if you see something, you don't talk. So even as a very, very young child, that was drummed into, everybody's brain. So I can relate to what happened there, and we have the luxury of having actually 3 witnesses. Two of them are alive. 3 have been interviewed by Paola. I've helped in the investigation in the last 4 years, and I helped re-interview them. The witness we found recently was the niece of one of the witnesses there, who came in a few years later to that part of New Mexico, and she saw at that point the other materials that were recovered, including strange fibers, glowing fibers. She saw that. I mean, they lost it later, and of course things got misplaced and houses burned down and the landscape changed, and so we don't have access to those, but we have good descriptions. And who else is talking about fiber that glows different colors? Well, Colonel Corso. Mm-hmm. And Colonel Corso had the materials from Roswell. So we have confirmation all over the place about what happened at Trinity. And of course, one of the things it does is that it resets the entire history of the phenomenon in the United States. because if everything started in 1945, wow, now you have to reset a lot of things. There are materials that you could argue would exist in research labs and so on in 47. Like that strange sheet of metal that you can bend and it goes back automatically to its original form. Well, there are a number of labs working on it, including Battelle Memorial Institute in Ohio that has been involved in quite a bit of UFO research, material research, even in the very early days. But 1945, well, did we already have a memory metal in 1945? That's not obvious. Or did the memory metal that we have now, was that inspired by things that were retrieved, in San Antonio, New Mexico in 1945? So the history, we're just at the beginning of that. I mean, our book is the beginning. It's pretty complete in terms of the recovery of the craft and who the witnesses were, what they did, day by day, almost hour by hour. We have a table of day by day what the weather was like, what the temperature was like, how many vehicles the Army was bringing there, what kind of crane, and all of that. We have the detail of that. That we really don't have in any other case I know. In the book, we've drawn a parallel with two other cases where the object had the same shape. Socorro, New Mexico, that happened 10 miles north of that point, 10 miles north of San Antonio. And of course, I was assisting Dr. Hynek when he went to Socorro, and there have been a number of analyses of that material. The object that Lonnie Zamora, that the local policeman from Socorro, the object he saw was oval. It was shaped like, you could say an avocado. And then there is another case that I know very well because I've gone there. I've interviewed the main witness at Valensole in 1965, July 1st, 1965, when an object landed. Now, both of those were not crashes. They were landings that left traces. And, I've gone back to the site at Socorro, and I've gone several times to the site at Valensole. In all three cases, they were aliens, or certainly creatures that looked humanoid, but were not, humanoids of any shape or form that had been seen before. And they were breathing air. They were not wearing masks. They were not wearing, special equipment to breathe. And we have a very good description from all those witnesses, including Mr. Padilla in New Mexico.
Jacques, stay right there.
We're starting to build a pretty good picture of what those things look like and what they do.
I have to take a quick break. Let's get this in. Our guest, Jacques Vallée, talking about Trinity, his new book that he wrote, co-authored with Paola Harris. And we've got a lot more to talk about, too, as well. We will continue the conversation after this short break. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30 days free on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer, Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B blend for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jacques Vallée. Tomorrow night, right here, Linda Moulton Howe. What a great conversation with Jacques. And I actually want to ask you this, Jacques, while I've got you here. In the recent intelligence budget for 2022, there's a big provision there for a new version of the UAPTF. That's not what's important. They're going to rename it and they're going to do their thing, and we'll see what happens. But in there, there are 4 or 5 or 6 provisions, and one of them specifically, Jacques, is about crash retrievals and dealing with materials from a crashed UAP, and that these materials and the crashes must be reported. Now, this has never been like this before, as we know, and the public has always been kept in the dark on this. Do you expect something to actually come from this, where a UAP or a UFO crashes, debris is recovered, and then this is then followed up on and reported before, even inside of the government? Nobody knows where these crafts are taken. Nobody knows. They just disappear. What do you make of that?
Well, there is a big difference, I think any scientist would say, between recovering bits of material that you can analyze and so on, or recovering a craft. The object that we know was recovered by the Army in New Mexico in 1945 was an entire craft. It came in from the east. It hit a tower that was a communication tower controlling communication with aircraft for the north zone of White Sands. Technically, the ranch where it landed was part of the extended, it was outside the fence of White Sands, of the base, but it was technically still part of the controlled territory and controlled airspace. So it hits that tower, and then it goes down. It plows a boulevard all the way down the hill, which means it was still under power. It's not broken. There is one panel that has been ejected from the object. And later the kids are going to see those 3 creatures through that panel when they rush down to help. There is no concept of UFOs or flying saucers or anything, but they know that this is wartime, and when something crashes, it's probably the military, and you're supposed to go there and help. Or if you can't help, you go to the next town and you get some help, to rush back to the scene. They see these creatures. The creatures are extraordinary. They are not so much afraid, but they are sort of frozen to the spot. We have a very good description by both of them of what the creatures looked like. And then they decide to go home and report it. And in fact, their father and the state policeman are going to come not immediately the next day, but the day after, so 48 hours later, to the site with the kids. The kids are driving the truck, by the way. Again, these are 7 years old and 9-year-old. Well, a 9-year-old can drive a truck, especially in New Mexico, when there isn't a lot of traffic jams. And but most of the time, of course, they use horses because the horses are going to make the trip faster than the truck. And they, the 2 adults, the father and the New Mexico policeman, Mexico officer, go inside the object. By then, there is no trace of the occupants. We should tell people, if they want to talk more about this, they should come to Laughlin, the Aquarius Resort, at that conference organized by Paola Harris, November 12 to 14. So we'll be there for 3 days. Paul Hynek will be there. You will be there, Jimmy.
Yes, I will.
Paul Smith will be there from the remote viewing program, and of course the military side of the remote viewing program that Dr. Puthoff had instigated with a team that I had the privilege of working with occasionally. There will be, Dr. Lynn Kitai will be there. Jaime Mozan from Mexico will be there, and I look forward to speaking with him because he has some parts of that bracket that have been analyzed in Mexico. So we're eager to compare notes with him to find out if this is, after all, a common object, or if there are some things that it just looks common and it has a special property. Cynthia Sue Larson will be there, Karen Gresham-Nickel, of course Paola Harris, and a number of other people. Grant Cameron, I think, will be attending by through a link.
Teleconference,
and
yeah.
There will be a number of other people there.
Now, the reason why I'm asking about this being in the budget, when we're talking about crash retrievals and crashes like Trinity or Roswell or Kecksburg or Needles, California in 2008, there is no paper trail. And now the government is saying, we need a paper trail. We need to know what's going on with the debris and the crash itself. Do you?
They're welcome to join the research. I mean, that's what we've been doing the last 30 years. We've published a lot of it, in more or less. Research magazines and so on. But now we're about to publish the first paper in one of the top aerospace reviews in the world after a very intense review and critique by a panel of scientists. So the paper has been accepted, reviewed, and expanded. Yes, a government should do this. We have shared our material with people in France. They've helped us. They've helped Professor Sturrock, analyze the Ubatuba cases. We will share, and that's what you do in science. You don't hide it in the basement. I mean, you may go to the basement where your machine is to do the first test because you're curious, but then you want your colleagues to check what you've done. I hope that whole thing isn't going to be classified. Now, let's go back in history because I remember the days of the Condon Committee, the Condon report from the University of Colorado said there is no such thing. Well, maybe, good people see things in the sky, but it's probably nothing. It's probably explainable. The New York Times published an article saying, well, the Air Force has looked at this, and they say there's nothing. It's probably nothing. The Academy of Sciences said there's nothing to this UFO thing, and the subject was dead. For 15 years. That was so. Now the New York Times is saying, "Hey, look at these images. Those are UFOs." And the Academy of Sciences hasn't said anything yet, but you have the government saying, giving credibility to this and removing the stigma. So that's good. I'm glad I lived long enough to see that. At the time of the Condon report, I resigned from Northwestern University, where I was, in a research position. I had just done my PhD in AI, in artificial intelligence, in 1967. I mean, AI goes way back. It was first developed for a number of applications back in the late 60s and 70s. Now everybody's talking about AI. And it covers a whole variety of different things, some of which are pretty ridiculous and some of which are changing everything in industry and in life. By the way, Dr. Paul Hynek, who is going to be at Laughlin at our conference, is going to talk about artificial intelligence today. So, and we've had occasion, of course, to survey the things that have happened in New Mexico together, and it's really a pleasure to be able to work with the son of Professor Hynek. So, yes, these should be shared. You don't want just one lab, especially not one, dark lab somewhere. To look at this, we should be turned over to science. And that's what we're going to do. That's what we've started to do with our samples. Sharing it with laboratories that are equipped to verify what we find.
Now, you've been at this for such a long time, and you know the atmosphere in the civilian community and civilian research groups and civilian researchers, and also the government's attitude towards this subject. And you've been right in the middle and riding through this. But here we are in 2021, Jacques, where it appears for the first time that our government is now, and the Pentagon and the military, are our friends, that they are talking about this out in the public. Is it okay for the UFO community to embrace and trust the military and the government's view on ET and contact? Or, is it too much too soon, or is this a good thing?
Okay, so we're going to see how it develops. As I learned a long time ago, there is no such thing as a government. There is even no such thing as the armed forces. There are many agencies involved, legitimately. They have their own turf. They protect their own turf. They have their own tools. Over the Nimitz, the Air Force was flying over the Pacific at the same time. We haven't heard from them.
Right.
We've heard from the Navy pilots. We haven't heard from the Air Force pilots. So there will be, the government needs to organize its own structures to deal with this if they now want to do it, on a larger scale, rather than one agency at a time, looking at its own data with its own tools. That's difficult to do in the government. We have a complex government. The intelligence community itself has, last time I counted, at least 15 branches, and there are other things that, are attached to that also, that have their own their own need to know and their own territories. So it's not going to be that easy. So what has happened is we've gone 2 steps forward. The first step is the stigma has been removed. Mm-hmm. If you're a scientist at a university, you can now openly say that you are interested in UFOs. They won't fire you. They won't. They'll promote you if you need to be promoted and so on. But the stigma has been removed, which is great.
What's the second step?
The other thing is that, as you said, they are putting some money behind new studies, which is what I've always hoped what would happen, because we've done things on a small scale. It should be done on a larger scale. There hasn't been a large study since the Air Force closed down Project Blue Book in 1969. But Project Blue Book has been maligned, in the press and in the media, and maybe, for good reason. But there was a lot of information in Project Blue Book that was valid information that we can't forget. So at the same time, we've also taken one step back because, look, if this is real, and it is a threat, it's going to be classified. And if it's going to be classified, 6 months from now, you're not going to know what these guys are working on. Now, I've had the privilege of working occasionally on, classified. I mean, the BAS project, as you know, I was involved in building the database for the project, or at least designing the database, and following, that aspect of it, the computer science, AI aspect of this for many years. But, it was and may still be classified, at least in part. Everybody has been talking about the physics papers published that are brilliant, published by that project under BAS, under Mr. Bigelow's organization. But this is the information about the database, which is actually a data warehouse composed of a number of articulated databases. That's just coming out now, and it's important information because it's probably the main product, the main deliverable from the project, and nobody has talked about it until recently.
No, can I ask
you? Yes,
you?
there are a lot of good things happening. We're at the beginning of something.
Jacques,
depending on what turn of events, we may or may not know what will be done with the next step.
How I want to ask you about not specifically, but when you put a database like that together, how do you approach it? Is it a database cross-referencing information? Is it a linear timeline of data? Is it chemical analysis? How do you construct a database, and what does it look like?
Well, it has to be all of that because and there are a number of people who are who professionally working with databases in industry and in the military and in research who want to plunge into that and will put a big database together that will solve the problem. Well, if we were at General Motors or that would be true, because at General Motors, you know everything. You know the parts, you know the dimension, you know the weight, you know the composition, and I would have to be a really bad programmer if you're my boss and I couldn't give you an answer when you want to know about part number 200-2, and I should be able to tell you how much it weighs and what it's made of. Not so much with UFOs, because we don't really know. I mean, the purpose of the database is discovery. The only parallel we would have recently would be DNA. Once we discover that there is such a thing as a chemical structure of DNA, now we need to know what it does. We need to know, and there are a lot of things, as we've seen, if you follow the medical literature, that we never expected the database would have to do. So you have to rebuild the database and build side databases all the time. So you cannot have one database. So fortunately, we know how to build a data warehouse or a data lake where you capture the data and you let the data sort of organize itself. I mean, at first, you have to organize it, capturing as much of the reliable information as you can think of, including probably some details that maybe, just side details that will never be useful, but you have to keep them anyway because you don't know what's useful and what's not. If those things are interdimensional, it's a whole different ballgame. It's not like all the parts, in a Cadillac. So it's a different way of thinking. And I would caution people rushing into that kind of thing. So it's actually, I don't know to what extent I can talk about it. I will let, the people who took the project forward talk about it. My contribution was essentially designing a process and a series of structures by which you could expand So it would be expandable, and the project was going to go through 3 phases. The first phase, which has been done, was the data capture in different languages from different sources, some of which had been published before. So, anybody could have done that from, some of the databases from pilots, for example, that the French have developed in connection with Dr. Richard Haynes from NASA.
Mm-hmm.
So those databases are available. We had to restructure them so that there would be compatibility among all the databases in the data lake. And so that's one of the contributions. The other thing that people don't think about is that you cannot recruit a cadre of people today to work on that program and expect them to be operational on day one. In fact, that would be very, very dangerous. You could write a contract with companies that process databases. I mean, Microsoft, is pretty good at that. So you could write a contract with any of those companies. The problem is that they don't know anything about UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the great things that the BASS project did was to take the time to take people, investigators, retired people from the police or the FBI, and train them, take the time to train them in what is specific about UFOs. UFOs are not cars. They disappear, they appear out of nowhere, they have psychic, aspects, they have physical aspects that we've never seen before in any vehicle. They leave traces that are complex. And so all those things people have to learn. If you take the best PhD in physics from some great university, I don't care, what is done before or what she's done before. They will have to spend time reading the UFO literature, including the things from NICAP and APRO and the reports from Dr. Hynek and all of that, and maybe I hope some of my books along the way, before they can be useful. It's not the case that you're going to hire, a PhD in chemistry and write a contract with her, and she'll be operational the first day. She can be helpful, but she'll have a lot to learn. And that's what the BASS project did. So the way I designed the project, there were 2 other levels that we didn't have time to implement. So all they have is a naked data, and it's done in such a way that all the hooks are there for the higher levels. But the higher levels, somebody is going to. I know how I would have built them with the appropriate team. And then the third level was the artificial intelligence, because we're going to need to go to AI to process that amount of data and that detail of data. There, I think they've, I'm not breaking any secret. I think that's in the book by Dr. Keller. There are roughly, you're talking about 200,000 cases in English, French, Russian, Portuguese, Spanish, Japanese, you name it, Chinese. And so the first effort was translation and standardization that the UFO community has never been able to do, even though we kept telling them, try to standardize around a number of things, where here we had a standard for all of the data, but every case has a very, very large amount of data. Think of a case like Socorro. You know how big that one case is going to be when it ends up in the computer.
It's going to be huge. And I remember when you and I talked.
Well, it's huge, but it's not huge by the standards of what we do now, with modern computers.
No, but 200,000 cases, and every little detail on that case individually, it amounts to a lot of data. And the only way...
you have to design the database so that it can serve a community of anthropologists,
right,
of psychologists,
right,
of child psychologists, of physicists, of doctors. I put a big emphasis on doctors, on medical data and biological data, because I knew that was probably the most important direction to explore. And in fact, that has been developed beyond what is just in the initial database. And but you have to anticipate communities of researchers who have different languages, different ways of, different technical languages, different ways of looking at the data. And the way a physicist looks at a sample is not going to be the same way a biologist looks at a sample, at the same sample. So you have to break through those walls of classification in science. And that's what we try to anticipate in building the database, because ultimately we don't know what is the right question.
I always wanted to interview E.T. on this show, Jacques. I finally did it. And but let's hold on for a second. I remember about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, when you were on the show with us here, and you said something on that show that people talk about to this day, and I didn't go back and follow up on the question. You just said something, and what you said was this: I know that we have retrieved crashed craft. I know that we have, and I never followed up on that. But now I'm going to follow up on something that you've said twice tonight. I'm not going to let this go. You've brought up DNA now and the medical aspects of this and the biological aspects. Is there, to your knowledge, are we in possession of extraterrestrial DNA?
I shouldn't be the one to answer that question. I would be guessing. I've heard the same things you've heard. I've spoken to doctors who thought that there was, in fact, the DNA. I don't know the answer. I don't know the real answer.
The real question is there DNA data in that database?
That's beyond my what I can talk about.
You know, I have to ask the question, Jacques.
Yes,
I mean, and I'm sure
they were biologists. We know who they are on the project. They would know whether they can answer the question reliably. Over the years, as you know, there has been a lot of interest in following up on cases where there were claims that DNA was available. But what I can tell you is, to my knowledge, in the San Antonio, in the Trinity case that Paola Harris and I have studied extensively, we did not have any biological material. And
would it surprise you that there is, you and I have heard the same stories, right? Alien bodies sent to Wright Pat, alien bodies sent to, and there must be, if some of these accounts are true, then there is DNA out there. Would it surprise you if this DNA evidence eventually surfaces and we are able to study that DNA?
That would not surprise me. No, people have looked at DNA in meteorites. I mean, that's material that comes from space. We pick it up. There have been papers that are still controversial from NASA biologists. At one time, I ran a project in venture capital that was actually sponsored by NASA. And we met with the biologists at NASA. I mean, they would, they obviously hope that they will find DNA or maybe even indirect evidence of DNA in a meteorite or in material from the moon or from Mars, which we're going to have. I mean, we have material from the moon. It's very unlikely that there would be DNA there. But in meteorites, why not?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And
if there has been an impact in, an asteroid or a planet somewhere that had developed life, like, even lichens or, primitive plant life, you would expect that some of the biological material would be something we could pick up that would not have been destroyed by the crash of that meteorite. So that's probably where we would find it first.
Would it surprise you if the analysis looks very similar to human DNA? Why would we expect it to be a whole lot different? You know what I mean? Because simple sugars and RNA have been found on meteorites that have crashed on Earth, right? And it would certainly suggest panspermia to some degree. But
when I talked to Dr. Colm Keller or some of the other doctors, on the project or at Stanford, I asked that question and I tried to understand the answer. I think the answer they are giving is that you can argue that DNA is a very, very efficient process for building bodies, building beings that, walk around and think and do things. That doesn't mean that that's the only way the universe, or if you say, if you believe in God, that God has designed life, okay? Mm-hmm. Or that life has evolved. So the question is can we think of, and there are labs, of course, that are experimenting. I mean, we've got DNA with, the four basic molecules. You could add a fifth molecule and see what it does. There are people doing that. That's dangerous because we don't want to invent another form of life that we can't control. But you can do experiments, chemical experiments, and see what would work or might work, just so that if we ever encounter something like that, when we send people to Mars, for example, that we would be able to recognize it. So I think that's the purpose of the experiments that are being done today. It's fascinating science. It's not a science I practice, but I've worked with biologists on the computer side of what they do, and I begin to know how they think. And they certainly are thinking along the line of your question. Now, the universe is big enough also to have created other ways of developing life and probably intelligence. And we have to allow for intelligence that could be certainly smarter than we are. I hope it does. So it may be based on other forms of chemistry, or the elements would probably be similar, and there is something that I think we should clear up. You see, in the UFO literature, people say, well, if we found, iron or aluminum that had different ratios of isotopes, the isotopes are going to vary across the universe, but not by much. So we wouldn't expect to find something where the the ratios are a little bit different and say, see, that's a proof that it comes from outer space. It would not be a proof. It would be interesting, but it would not be a final proof that the thing came from outer space.
Now, would I guess I'm going to ask this in a more direct fashion. You have always tried to present the case for an interdimensional ET civilization. If that is the case, then there wouldn't be a DNA. How would you extrapolate DNA from a light being? You know what I mean? That where it's not truly biological and it's not actually physical. A lot like the way that Steven Spielberg portrayed E.T. in the movie AI at the end, where it was a pure energy, had shape, you could see it, but there wasn't a physical aspect to it.
Well, you could imagine an intelligent plasma. People have done that. There are scientists who have written science fiction books, but based on real science. You could certainly imagine that, where we're going to design forms of maybe not intelligence, but certainly advanced thinking based on quantum computers and other devices that derive from computer technology. They wouldn't have DNA. There are other ways to allow them to evolve that would be based on forms of logic. I mean, DNA is really a logical machine. So, and it's extraordinarily efficient because it knows how to avoid degrading, and being affected by errors and things like that. But it's getting to be recognizable as a logical process on top of a biological process, or really a biological process on top of a logical process. So yes, I think you're asking the right question. I mean, those things, but that will come from science. It's not going to come from UFOs. The idea, people have been shocked when I mentioned dimensions. I mean, I wrote that book, Dimensions, I think in 1980. So, that's probably beyond the age of most of the people who are listening to us now. So it's, but that comes from science. It comes from physics. Physics says there couldn't be just 3 dimensions plus 1 dimension of time, which doesn't even make sense because it only moves in one direction, and that we know that doesn't make too much sense. So there is something we're missing, and physicists have been looking at this and building hypotheses about other. I remember Dr. Hynek was teaching at Northwestern to his students that there could be another universe 5 minutes ahead of us. That's completely acceptable in modern science. I mean, you could. It's one of the possibilities that there's another universe in time, and there could be a tunnel. Now, my friends who are better in physics than I am say, well, slow down, Jacques. You couldn't get a spaceship through that tunnel. Well, that's what they say today, but maybe they say something different tomorrow.
If which would make total sense, and I agree with Dr. Hynek on that point, in that 5 seconds ahead, 5 minutes ahead, 5 seconds behind, and if that is the case, we would not be not only in that time scale, but in that frequency. And so physically, in any regard, we wouldn't know about it. We wouldn't see it. We wouldn't feel it. We wouldn't smell it. but it's right there, and it is around us at the exact same time. Would that solve some of the questions of these craft that just appear and disappear randomly for no reason?
Well, it would account better, and for years, people, including UFO researchers, civilian researchers, have thrown out the stories where the witness said, well, I saw a light, and it was an unusual light, and then there was sort of an explosion of light, and next thing you know, there was a spacecraft in my backyard, and I can show you the holes, where it made. Well, that's not crazy at all. And the place where it gets crazy is when things happen inside a house. And they go from the inside to the outside in ways we don't understand. And then, it's not just... Of course, if you can go partially through another dimension, you could do that. But that's not the theories that you will find that even in the reports to to the Pentagon, even in the reports from from the BASS project, we didn't quite go that far. Although there were observations at the ranch that would, for many years before the project, under the projects that of NIDS and projects run by Mr. Bigelow's staff, where things like that happen.
I want to thank you for coming on tonight, and I know you've got a lot to do. We've got to prep and get ready for Paula's big conference. And I wanted to ask you, and for everybody, it's very simple. StarWorksUSA.com, tickets and information, everything is right there. Aquarius, hotel, and accommodations are all there on the site. The links are up not only at jimmychurchradio.com, but throughout social media. But Jacques, one last question. Because, and I know that you're aware of the respect that you have in the UFO community, and people want to come up and ask you questions, like at this conference, and you've always been very open to them. But over the years, because everybody puts so much weight on your words, are you cautious about your replies? Because for the most part, they get written in stone. Jacques said it, therefore, right?
Well, you can find people who are have at least as much experience as I do with the field who've said the opposite of what I've said. So, people have to balance all that. Anything in science or in research is always open to question. I mean, look at relativity. I mean, relativity is at a point where it needs to be updated because it's in contradiction with what we know now in quantum mechanics and so on. That would be revised, and Einstein was the first one to look for. You always question your assumptions. So I try to I try to teach that, especially when kids ask me that kind of question and they think they are going to be going away with a firm answer. I always try to explain that this is what we think we know today, but there may be somebody who is going to prove the opposite tomorrow, and we don't know where that's going to come from. I love the questions, by the way, because that people teach me more than than I can satisfy their curiosity, because they've seen those things. I know what pleasure it is to be with Mr. Padilla, who in New Mexico, because he was there and I wasn't, and I'm it's my burden to try to come up with the right question to trigger his memory, which, by the way, is outstanding, and I'm very jealous his ability to remember what happened there.
You know, your reputation amongst researchers, authors, contactees, experiencers, show host, your reputation is if there's somebody out there that's got the secrets, it's Jacques Vallée, right? and this has been repeated over and over again. And when you hear that, what goes through your mind? Do you want to just reply back, I don't have any secrets? Or do you just keep those secrets to yourself?
Well, the secret is to keep searching. That's the only secret. You always search. I don't think that, I would, of course, I would love to be invited to the places where those ships
stories
are being kept, or even parts of them. In the book, I've detailed some of my experiences with people who were there, who saw some of that, including some things in the book that have never been revealed before, like the time we shot one of those things and recovered the material. And that wasn't the Nimitz. That was in 1952 over Washington.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So the pilot was authorized to fire a rocket at the object and broke off a part of it, and the part was recovered. And I spoke to people who had seen it. It's probably appropriate for, people say, well, disclosure. Well, what is it you're going to disclose exactly? If you want to, the atom bomb we disclosed at Hiroshima. It was super secret and so on, and but after Hiroshima, people knew there was such a thing as an atom bomb. That hasn't happened with UFOs. But how many witnesses like, Jose Padilla do you need before you start believing that those things are real? I mean, what kind of scientist are you if you keep mistrusting witnesses? If we have 200,000 cases, I mean, not all of them are UFOs, by the way. I mean, the second level that I had designed that was never applied would have reduced it to the kernel of the true UFOs. So people who say, well, we can just apply AI, we'll take 200,000 cases and we'll put them in the latest Google machine that has AI, and we're going to find out where those things come from. Well, I don't think that's good computer science. It's certainly not good physics, and it's not good psychology, because there are a lot of things that look like UFOs, and you have to go case by case by case, and that's going to take a while. That was phase 2 in my proposal, in my design. Phase 3, which was the AI, would come after that, because you don't want an AI machine to start speculating about things that are 80% wrong, or 80% not the sample that you need.
Yeah, you can't trust.
If you did that with, I was involved once with a company that was rushing into, it wasn't exactly AI, but it was DNA analysis, and they had samples that they got from saliva, and they were going to put the saliva into a tube, and they were going to run it with their wonderful device. It was going to tell them something about, detecting diseases. Well, that was a design. They had forgotten that you need to clean the sample, because in saliva you're going to have a lot of things beyond the microbe or the bug you're looking for, or the chemical pattern you're looking for. So when they realized that It set them back 6 months because they had to design, and they should have known that from the beginning, that the saliva wouldn't permit them to get the kind of sample they wanted. I mean, there are some things they could get, but that to get to the level of sophistication they needed to clean the saliva and purify it. Well, the database that the project has, it needs to be purified. And that's one of the applications of AI. And, I've designed tools that can help do that, and other people have. There are now, unfortunately, a lot of people who are available who understand AI at the right level. But that's going to take time. You can't just dump it into a so-called intelligent engine and find out, where the aliens come from. That's not going to happen.
Are you afraid of AI? Are you afraid of it? All of the. Well, I'm just asking you directly. Are you afraid of it? Is there something that scares you about AI, or are you cool?
I'm afraid of the way people are talking about using AI. Mm-hmm. I'm afraid of people more than I'm afraid of AI. Now, I've read the books, and as you know, the scientific community is divided among people who study logic, and there are people like Federico Fagin, who is a great inventor, one of the great physicists in Silicon Valley, who says it will never work. The intelligence is not what the machine does. It just looks like it. And when you look at your computer today, I mean, he's got a point. But the question is, well, can we extract enough of it that it's going to be intelligent enough to do things that we cannot do? Well, it's already doing that. So I think we are going to start relying on processes. In the army, in the field. I mean, those things are going to start shooting without human intervention when they recognize a pattern, a dangerous pattern. So we're already there. We are going to have a steep learning curve, is the best answer I can give you. I don't think anybody can answer that question now. I think we're going to have fascinating conversations with AI engines in the future about a lot of things. I'm hoping I can be there.
Oh, yeah. Well,
when that happens.
Well, see, this
in 1967, I designed a program that people told me I couldn't design that answered English questions about astrophysics. And the reason it did that was that the people in astronomy were spending 2 days to get answers to those questions because they had to write a program every time. They had to submit it to the machine, and the machine would give them would run it, in time-sharing mode and so on, and would give them an answer the next day. So with my program, you could just type the answer in English, and you'd get the answer. You could type the question in English, and you'd get the answer, which was usually a number. So we know how to do that. We've known that as a tool, AI could help us in organized dialogue with the machine. And you could guide the machine the way you drive a truck, which is the way my program worked. You had to come up with a question. So you had to come up, the machine would recognize if you said something stupid, and it would tell you that it couldn't give you an answer. So at least that's, the most dangerous kind of AI is the AI that doesn't recognize that you're stupid. And because it's going to go through the process, and it's going to go chunk through the data, and it's going to come up with some answer. yes or no, or 16.5 or something, is going to be the wrong answer. That is going to be very misleading. I believe in the kind of AI that establishes a level playing field with you as the questioner, especially in medicine, but also in physics or in astrophysics or in any of those fields where the machine knows the limitations of what it can tell you. For example, in my in my system, you could say how many systems of stars, how many stellar systems contain stars. Well, they all do. You don't need to create a formula that's going to go through the entire catalog of known stars and count them and find out that all the systems of stars have stars, because my question was stupid. So it needs to have a semantic engine in the front end that can talk to me, listen to my question, and tell me, Jacques, we love you, but you should ask something else because what you just asked was silly. And so what I'm afraid of is that all the AI that people talk about now don't have that. They all assume that the question has a meaning and it's a good question, and they are going to go into that huge, Google memory, and they're going to go chunk and extract something, and you're going to believe the answer because, after all, it's artificial intelligence, and that's wrong. That's the greatest danger in AI today, is that we're going to believe the answers.
This is what scares me.
It scares a lot of programmers.
Well, and what about AI that has the ability, and it will eventually, to rewrite its own code? That's a pretty dangerous zone too, as well. Should we keep that limitation in play where AI can't change its code? If you put in an instructions,
it can do that now.
Right.
You can give it a goal. When I came to Stanford, I developed the first database system at Stanford that could do. It's called non-procedural retrieval. So you tell the machine what you want. You don't tell it how to get it. And the machine should know enough about designing the particular program and execute it to get you that particular answer. But everything is defined in that environment. So it's not too magical, and it looks magical the first time you do it. I think that the people who have never seen that before, that's a kind of database system that replaced all the earlier database systems. It's called non-procedural because you don't have a procedure to get to the answer. You let the machine develop the procedure. We've known how to do that for 40 years. But the question is, will the machine be able to notice that there is something we've missed, and it will then program itself to go study it? Well, I hope we can see that. There are already machines that are systems that work the way DNA does. In other words, they come up with a formula, and then they evolve the formula to see how the answer changes. That's in part what DNA, in a very crude way, description, that's in part what DNA is capable of doing. And it's an adaptive system, but people have developed computer systems that do that.
If general AI is achieved by somebody on this planet, does a state actor, a corporation, an individual, but if general intelligence is achieved, is that the winner? Is it, you know what I mean? Is that
Okay.
Is everybody else left behind?
There is a science fiction book. You know, I love sci-fi like most of my contemporaries in computer science. Going back at least 40 years. I don't remember the title. I don't remember the author, which is a pity. But exactly what you said happens. Somebody develops the ultimate thinking machine, you know, that's going to give us a lot of answers and so on. And they turn it on. And the machine goes clunk, 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 clunk. And it prints out something on the printer that says, there is another system. So it's gone through everything that you know that you've given it. It's processed it in a few minutes, and it has has made the conclusion that there is another intelligent system like it. And then it spends all its time trying to find it and talk to it, and it doesn't want to talk to the humans anymore because the humans have already told everything they knew. So now it wants to talk to the other computer, and it's a fascinating novel. That's probably what would happen.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
It would go out there. Say the DoD, develops this super database with the CIA and everything else on UFOs, and you give it to a big computer. What makes you think a thinking computer would talk to you after that? I mean, it would go on trying to find resources to find the answer by itself, because it would be so interesting to an AI that it would forget you, and it would go look for the answer. What makes you think it's going to give you the answer?
What do you think the timeline? I love talking AI, and especially with you. You've been doing this since the beginning. But is this something that, like a general intelligence, is this something that we would actually see soon? Kurzweil's pushed the dates back.
People talk about AI in general.
Right.
And that AI, a lot of AI already exists. It's in your car. I mean, your car has over 100 computers, and it adjusts to all kinds of things in a way that's not programmed. It's heuristic. It's not an algorithm.
Right.
Everybody talks about algorithm, but algorithms are predictable. I mean, you always know what they're going to do given certain data. What's interesting is the heuristics, where the machine is going to do something and you don't know what it's going to do. So that's already there. It's already there, certainly in advanced aircraft and in cars and in a lot of technology that we use, and we don't really think about it. We trust it. Not so much to do automatic driving yet. I think we're learning a big lesson there. That it's not that simple. It's not complicated with the level of complication we know about. It's more complicated, and so that's already there. There are extraordinary things that have already done. That kind of thing already exists. What you're asking is general intelligence enough to, in a specialized area, for example, recognizing tumors from X-rays or from scans.
Right.
That's, I'm hoping we're going to have that very soon, but that's not going to happen with could be. It has to be a dialogue between the AI and a human regarding the decision. But there are things in the military, there are things where, the robot will start shooting.
Wouldn't it be
based
easy?
on its intelligence.
Yeah, wouldn't it be
that's
easy?
Where we should really think through what we're doing.
Wouldn't it be easier just to upload consciousness onto a chip and be done with it? I mean,
yes. We're going to do that as soon as you tell us what consciousness is.
Yeah, exactly. Jacques, thank you so much, man, and
well, it's a lot of fun, and Laughlin will be even more fun because Paul Hynek will be there, and he's talking about AI, and there are a number of people I want to talk to. Jaime Maussan, whom I've never met, he's one of the people that I would treasure a chance to compare notes with him about Mexico and Latin America and so on, and of course Paul Smith and the other people who'll be there, and you'll be there.
Yes, I will, and we're going to do Fade to Black live on stage Friday night, and I have the feeling I'm going to pull you up on stage, and we're going to maybe dance. You and I, we can do some dancing. Jacques, thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for taking my phone calls. Thank you for being here. This community loves everything that you do, and you've been here for us for so long. And I just want to thank you on behalf of the community right now for everything that you have done for us. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you very much, Jimmy. Thank you.
You're the best. Jacques Vallée. And again, it is November 12th through the 14th in Laughlin, Nevada at the Aquarius Hotel and Casino. Everything is simple enough to do. Just go to starworksusa.com. Head straight there. Tickets, info, accommodations, the hotel, the discount code for the hotel. Everything is right there at starworksusa.com. And Jacques is right. Paul Hynek, a very smart guy, very funny guy, very cool guy. He knows AI. And I can't wait to go and hang out with Paul. So we're all going to be there. Myself, Jacques, Paul, Grant Cameron's coming in via teleconference. Colin Andrews, Jaime Maussan, 10 other amazing speakers at the Starworks USA UFOs, All the Above and Beyond conference. I'm going to take a quick break. I want to thank Jacques Vallée for coming in tonight and spending. Wow, that was just absolutely amazing. Hold on. I skipped. Hold on. I blew through a commercial break. Did I do that? I did. Wow. I'll open up the phone lines now. I'll be right back. Stay with us. 747-228-2051.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon Coffee banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard. Available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
Gold loves chaos, uncertainty, and disarray. History shows us what gold does when people aren't sure about the government, the stock market, their jobs, or their retirement savings. Our national debt is skyrocketing. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against inflation and a stock market that might take years to recover. So what can you do right now to protect yourself? Call United Gold Group. We offer gold and other precious metals delivered securely within 72 hours. Are you worried about the stock market? We can also help you set up a real gold or silver IRA or a 401k. Safe and secure. United Gold Group makes gold ownership affordable. Call now and get up to $2,500 in free gold or silver with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. That's 800-753-8534 or visit UnitedGoldGroup.com.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. Jacques Vallée. That was an amazing conversation. So much to unpack. And I'm going to let everybody know. With Jacques, you just have to let him speak. And he's not used to being interrupted. And I tried to jump in a couple of times. And I wasn't being rude, but he has a hard time hearing as well. And but there was a couple of points there where I was trying to jump in and couldn't do that. But there was another reason for it. I want everybody to understand that Jacques told me a few times this week. He said, let's just do an hour. I said, okay, all right, let's just do an hour. Well, obviously it wasn't an hour. It was 2 hours, and he had a lot to say. I've done a lot of interviews and had a lot of conversations with Jacques over the years. Tonight was the best show that I have ever done with him. And one of the reasons, and I think all of you could tell, just let him go. Let him just get this stuff out that he needs to get out. And once that happens, I'm just going to let it fly. And when we went past the 1 hour mark, I just decided then let's just go. Let's just let this happen. And I'm not even sure if he realized that 2 hours went by, because it was just flying out. Now, I want to go back to one point that was made tonight, and there were many. I think this is a conversation tonight that is going to be listened to a lot by many people in the months and years ahead. DNA. Now, when this database, okay, Jacques referenced DNA a few times tonight. And although it is a very complex thing, we've now mapped it and things, but it's very complex. And the question of alien DNA being analyzed, nothing public, right? But we have all of these conversations about alien bodies and crash retrievals, including the Trinity case, and which is alien occupants were there on that craft. I believe there was 3. And where did they go? They wandered off. When the police and everybody came back to the crash site, there was nobody there. So they just wandered off. Where did they go? And were they not only picked up, but their DNA, was it tested? Where did this go? Now, I understand that this was 1945, but their bodies, if they were, how do I say this, sequestered? Are they still alive? Did they pass? Did they, but their DNA is still here. And now with modern science today, which is what Jacques was talking about, we have the ability to go and analyze all of this at the scientific level and apply computer research back into this, including AI. Where is this information? And to ask Jacques directly about DNA, and does he have any knowledge of it? Well, he may or may not, but he is certainly interested in it, and he has gone and must have had conversations with others about that. One of the most elusive subjects, right? If there is a dark subject out there, when I say dark, hidden, crash retrievals and flying saucers and whatever the sport model, that is classified information. I mean, at the deepest levels. You want to take it one step further, in even more classified and even darker, deeper secret would be alien DNA and alien bodies. That's a whole nother level. If you have an alien probe, a satellite that shows up here on Earth and crashes, yeah, big news, big deal. Alien bodies, alive or dead, alien DNA, that takes things to a whole nother level. And yeah, so asking Jacques, what was this DNA data incorporated into the database? Now, it's not that he's going to give us an answer on that, but certainly I need to ask the question to get his reaction on that. And I think it's very interesting and honest. His answer going back was, of course, Jimmy, I'm around biochemists. I'm around anthropologists. I'm around these people that are parts of these programs, and I work at universities, and I'm asking the same questions that you are. So that's very interesting. This DNA question is right there, and I need to go back and listen to his answers again. Not that he has information specifically. I'm talking about what he has learned. And he's out there asking these questions and things. And the reactions that you get from the people that you are asking the questions to, that's what you look for. And that was very interesting. Wow, what a great conversation tonight with Jacques. I mean, absolutely, absolutely amazing. Again, Laughlin, StarWorksUSA.com. Go and get your tickets and information. We'll see everybody next month. With that, I've got a bunch of phone calls here that have flooded in, and let's get to the first one. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi, Jimmy, this is Dean in Reno. Next time you talk to Jacques, let him know the book that he's trying to remember was Colossus by D.F. Jones. The movie was Colossus, the Foreman Project.
Oh, that you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That I don't know if I've read the book.
It's pretty hard to get a hold of a copy these days. It's out of print and it's very dear.
So, what did you think about this conversation tonight? Pretty fascinating.
Wow, it was really good. I noticed he very gracefully avoided answering the DNA question.
Well, you know what though? I think he answered it honestly, and not only, but he continued though, right? He didn't stop. I think his answer was honest when he said, "Jimmy, I'm as interested in DNA, alien DNA, as you are." And I'm out there asking people, what about the DNA? And wow, what an answer. That was really, really cool. And it goes back to, Dean, if you remember, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago when, and he just let it slip in. Yeah, of course we have, crashed craft, and we have done that. And he continued talking, and we got into other subjects and things, and I never went back and said, wait a minute, did you just say, what are you talking about there? And I didn't do that. Well, tonight he brought up DNA like 3 or 4 times, and I wasn't going to let this one get away from me. Not this time.
And let me speak for all the Fadernauts. We appreciate you not letting that one get away.
It was so much to unpack. I say that after every interview, there's so much there, but tonight, whoa, man, there was a lot of stuff there. And the book Trinity, which I have, is a really good read, but he is right about Trinity, the way that the analysis was done on the timeline and the day-to-day aspect and what was done, not only with the military vehicles and the thing, but that kind of research that he brought to the table, because you have Paula and her approach to it and how she is going to investigate this. And then you have Jacques, who is absolutely black and white. Right, and that's who you need. That's why the book is so good, because you have the best of both worlds there. But Jacques' approach to—
I must get it.
Yeah. It's a great read, and Jacques' approach to all of this has been with the scientific mindset, and he's right. That's the one thing that is missing today. Is that I meant to ask him about Avi Loeb. He said another point that he made, that today, and this has never been like this before, if you're a professor, if you're doing research at a university, you can talk about this subject now. It's never been like this before. You brought up UFOs, you bring up aliens, you bring up these words in college and university. That's a bad career path choice. You just never did it. Now today you can, and he's absolutely right. So now, for the first time, we have the ability to pool all of these minds and get together and start to look at this data, because this database, Dean, that he's talking about, 200,000 cases. 200,000 cases, applying AI to it and trying to extrapolate the information and come to conclusions is one thing. And it's another thing to have a bunch of scientific minds apply themselves to this, because people think differently, right? And they have different methodologies and ways to study and research, and they have their own questions. Well, we have the ability to do that now for the first time.
And it's as if we're trying to understand cars by looking at cars that are manufactured in France, where they do things really weird, and manufactured in Detroit, and manufactured in Russia and Germany and China, and everybody's got their own take on how to do things, and trying to extract that from pieces of wreckage from the collisions on the Autobahn and freeway, it's going to be challenging.
Yeah.
But it's worth doing.
Yep.
It is worth doing.
And we are doing it now. Dean, thank you so much, man, and enjoy the rest of your night. We'll see you tomorrow with Linda Moulton Howe. Have a great night.
Yep. You too. And let me do you one better.
What's that?
Fade 3 black.
Fade 3 black. Have a good night, Dean. Thank you so much, my friend. It's a great phone call right there. And, oh, man, I have to, I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'll get to the rest of the phone calls. I got to get these in. I skipped past commercials. I did that for Jacques, but I also have to pay the bills. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Got lots of phone calls here. I'll try to get everybody in. Stay right there. Be patient. This is Fade to Black. We'll be right back after this short break. Your phone calls are next. Stay with us.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2B blend for 15% off of your order today.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30 days free on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Jumped over to the YouTube chat for a second, and Skinny Bob is the conversation over there. Skinny Bob, to this day, I don't talk much about Skinny Bob because Skinny Bob freaks me out. That video, I don't even know when it first surfaced, but it seems like I've been watching that video since YouTube came online. Which indicates that's an old video, and that's before the days of CG and things like that. That it freaks me out. There's something about Skinny Bob that feels real to me. And I know what people are thinking. Come on, Church, man, you're better than that. I'm telling you, Skinny Bob freaks me out. Skinny Bob feels authentic. Yeah. Has anybody ever debunked that video? Has anybody ever come forward? I made it. No, not that I know of. But yeah, Skinny Bob. All right, let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi, Jimmy. This is Mark calling from Salt Lake.
Hey, Mark from Salt Lake. How are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. After that, after 2 hours with Jacques Vallée letting loose, whoo, man.
Yes. That was an excellent show tonight.
What'd you think?
Oh, I loved it. I'm convinced he is an ET.
I had to joke with him a little bit about that tonight. But that Jeffrey Mishlove video that we were talking about from, I think, 1985, 1986, it's been around for a long time. And you go back, just go and watch that interview with Jeffrey Mishlove. Because what they did back then, it's a young Jacques, right? It's 35 years ago now, 36. It's a young Jacques. It's got a great head of hair. But the camera guy did these excellent close-ups of Jacques as he's answering questions going through this interview. But look at Jacques' eyes. And I've referenced this so many times over the years. You look at that. Tell me that's not E.T. I'm just saying. Go and look at that Jeffrey Mishlove video. Somebody pop up the links to it so I can do a retweet. Jeffrey Mishlove.
Yeah, he's a very intelligent guy.
Okay, so what sticks out for you tonight?
So what sticks out to me is I'm 57, just a little younger than you. And you remember back in the day, the $6 Million Man?
Of course.
I used to put tacks under my shoes and run real fast to make that noise, And anyway, so I thought of that, and then I thought about, you remember Westworld and Future World?
Love them.
Okay. I just binge watched the new version of Westworld, and it blew my mind.
I didn't watch the last season, but I watched the first two. They did 3 seasons, right?
Right. And I think there's another one coming.
Yeah, I think there's another one coming. The first 2, I started to get really uncomfortable. It was too good. And at the end of season 2, what's her name? The lead actress. I can't think of her name right now. She gets on the escalator and goes out to the real world. And so I didn't see season 3. I didn't check it out. But what's your point with that?
Well, my point is the autonomous part of it that they were learning. And then I got thinking, well, what if E.T., we are their biological AI?
Sure. I mean,
that just blew my mind just thinking of that.
Well, but here's the deal with that, Mark, and it's this. It has to be that way. That is the future. It just has to be that way. And the only answer for us to go to the stars right? The only answer, unless we figure out a way to jump into a wormhole and take away the vast distances and time of space, but the only answer to it in real terms is your consciousness, Mark, has to get uploaded into a robotic body. Right. That's it. Your meat sack is got a timestamp on it. That's it. There's no way around that. Oh, well, you can go to sleep. Yeah, go to sleep for 1,000,000 years. But the answer is getting your mind into an android. And then that's it. We can go for 10,000 years in one direction and head to the next star system. And that right there, and just imagine how smart you would be if you could live for an extra 100 years. Live to the age of 200, Mark, and you're going to school and you're learning and you're listening to Fade to Black every night, right? For an extra 100 years. Actually. Well, but imagine how smart you would be after 10,000 years.
Wow.
Right? So that's the future. It has to be that way. And Jacques actually brought that up tonight. I said, AI is one thing, and the complications with it. Why don't we just, upload our consciousness onto a chip? That solves all.
Well, if we thought of this 50 years ago, why can it not happen?
That's it. You know what? It probably already has. Mark, enjoy your night, man. We'll see you tomorrow with Linda.
Okay. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for taking my call.
Have a great night. That's a great phone call right there. I didn't watch episode 3 or season 3 of Westworld. I was getting way uncomfortable, man, with the first 2. Oh, man. Okay, let's stay on the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hello?
You're live.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Who's this?
This is Vader Lord.
This is Vader? How are you, man?
Yeah, very good. I sent you a text about the art picture.
Yeah, I got the picture. It's a painting in a gold frame.
Yes.
Yes, I've got it, man. Pretty cool. Pretty tasty.
It took me a long time to do that. It was when we were in lockdown. So I just stayed inside and did it for I don't know how long.
Yeah, it's a very impressive piece of art. How big is that? It looks like it's about 3 feet, 4 feet wide.
Yes. And 4 feet wide and about a foot to 2 foot across.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Or down.
And it looks thick.
Yeah.
It looks thick, man. It's very cool. Take another picture of it straight on.
Okay.
I'll let everybody know the image that he sent to me. He tried to squeeze it all in, so it's a little bit from the side. Yeah. I get it. Hey, Vader, enjoy your night. I've got to get to credits, but it's a great painting, man. And thank you for sending that.
All right, thank you.
Have a great night.
You too.
Bye. And once he sends me a better image, if it's cool with him, I'll post it. It's excellent. It's excellent. But it's from an angle, so it's coming from the side. I want the full-on front image. I know he's listening to me right now. I want the full-on front image. All right, with that, I know I've got calls on hold. I can't get to everybody. I've got to get to credits. I do want to thank Jacques Vallée tonight. And again, Jacques, there's going to be some people reaching out to you right now that are going to repeat these comments that I just made, or that I'm about to make. I know it was supposed to be an hour. It was 2. And there was no way I was going to stop Jacques Vallée for getting his mind out to this audience. That was absolutely incredible. And so thank you so much. I hope he doesn't give me grief later And when I blew through that commercial break and I was thinking about this, I thought, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to let this thing run. And that's what I did tonight. So thank you so much, Jacques. And I hope I don't get the phone call tomorrow. Oh, man. But there you go. Tomorrow night, right here on Fade to Black, is Linda Moulton Howe. Bob Salas yesterday did his press conference at the National Press Club out of Washington, D.C. I have not. I missed it yesterday. Oh, I want to say this. I missed it yesterday because yesterday morning I was taking a bunch of phone calls. I have AT&T, and the phone calls started to drop. Well, they've been dropping since I moved into this new home. And I've got issues with that. And so yesterday I was like, that's it. I'm done. And I jumped onto Verizon, and it took about 3 hours yesterday to suss out everything with Verizon, get everything done. I have a new iPhone 13 Pro Max that is arriving tomorrow, and I've got to get all of that worked out. Well, anyway, that was during the press conference. And I got to the end. I went, oh, man, I missed Bob Salas. So I am going to go and watch it tomorrow. Linda Moulton Howe will be on with us tomorrow night, and we will be discussing UFOs and nuclear weapons. And I promise I will review everything. So I am up to speed with everything that went down at the press club yesterday. Also, this did arrive today. Here it is, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. Not a very thick book. I was expecting a bit more by James Lukatsky and Colm Kelleher and, of course, George Knapp. And I am going to start reading this tonight, and I'll see what all the soap opera drama is all about. With that, I am going to get out of here. I'll see everybody tomorrow night with Linda Moulton Howe. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What a great night tonight. Again, I want to thank, one more time, Jacques Vallée. Fade to Black is produced by Hill J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Viteau, and Mark D. Kovar. Webmasters, Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. I'm going to say it right now, man. Syndication, UnX, the UnX Network. Premiering October 31st. Wow. In 11 days. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2021 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, Linda Moulton Howe. Until then, I want everybody to be safe. It's time to fade to black.